still lynch you, but he did, and I think he lasted about a week and a half.
Harrison Ashby, what is going on with the Harrison Ashby saga? Newcastle tried to buy him back in the summer, but West Ham knocked him back. Earlier on in the window, they submitted a bid. It didn't meet the valuation of what West Ham were looking for. And according to reports, they've gone back in with another bid. And West Ham, once again, have rejected this new offer, according to several reports. And it was been well publicised that Eddie Howe wanted to bring in a young right back to act as cover and maybe learn from Kieran Trippier, who has also been awarded a new contract at Newcastle. 18-year-old Ivan Fresneda has been watched regularly by Newcastle and scouts playing for Real Valladolid. And it looks like now that potential signing is out of the window as they are making another move for the West Ham fullback. Now, Ashby has been at West Ham since the age of 9 and made his first team debut back when he was 18 years old, back in 2020 before making his first Premier League appearance back in December of 2021. He was named in 3 of West Ham's Premier League matchday squads back in August and an unused sub, but hasn't been included in David Moyes in a Premier League match squad since then. Ashby has, though, made one start in the Europa Conference League this season back in August, and then in November came off the bench in a 3-0 win over Steaua Bucharest. And with potential players getting injured at Newcastle, that meant that they were going to be looking for a young player. Now, Ashby currently has refused to sign a new contract as West Ham, as things stand, and he will be out of contract come this summer. So it's within West Ham's interests to potentially get a fee if he doesn't want to sign for the club. Now, we would be entitled to some form of development compensation in the summer if Ashby didn't join or did join Newcastle or any other club after he leaves at the end of his contract. But that could be lower than the amount of the transfer fee that West Ham are trying to generate. Now, having only turned 21 in September, if Harrison Ashby was to sign for Newcastle, he wouldn't take a place up in the official senior 25-man Premier League squad, as he would be counted as an extra and under 21 player, the same as Elliot Anderson. Now, on top of that, Ashby's been a busy man recently because he's removed all West Ham-related pictures from his Twitter accounts. Now, you know, this is not something that we do. We don't go searching the West Ham player accounts, but you start to hear things and then you go and check it yourself. And he's been dropped a big hint potentially about what he maybe wants to do. The Twitter profile used to be a picture of him in a West Ham shirt with his icon in his header. Now that's been removed. Instead, he's chosen a simple black display, which has some fans speculating that could be Newcastle bound, given the black and white connections that, with the hoops there as well. And obviously he's not been a regular for David Moyes, but what does that mean for us moving forward? It would potentially is not the greatest of things for us, because you've got a real quality player, from what we believe, in Harrison Ashby, quality player that we feel that can step up to the plate, and he's just not getting the time. Now, if you haven't already, go and check out Tommy's Irish Tommy's late show last night, where we kind of spoke about, is the youth system defunct? Is it gone? Is it a pointless exercise? I still don't believe it is, but when it comes to players like this, I don't get it. That's the thing I struggle with when it comes to Harrison Ashby. Okay, if he wants to leave, he's not got a pathway into the first team, you'd want to first and foremost find out why. I feel like it does happen at every club around Europe. Like, you got a whole host of players that don't make it and get let go. I just feel like as West Ham fans, we hear of particular players that look like they've got the real, like it could be a real asset to West Ham and have a real future, but those players don't get a chance. Players like Alessi and players like Ashby, just to name a couple. A couple of the other players I'm not so bothered about because I genuinely believe it. But when you have high hopes for these players, then what does that mean for the future of our youth inclusion as well? Now, West Ham, this kind of got me thinking. West Ham have seen a list of our players go into the final 6 months of the contract drop, and who are out of contract in the summer drop from 8 to 5 this week following 3 deals in the transfer market. We had 8 senior players with just a few months left on their contracts heading into the final window before the end of this current campaign, leaving us with big decisions to make. However, they have now made that process easier, allowing for 2 permanent exits, as we do know. First one was Craig Dawson, who left West Ham to join Premier League rivals Wolves in a permanent move for 3.3 million. So a good deal on paper. He wanted to move for personal reasons, and that was that. On top of that, though, we saw Darren Randolph make the move, departing to Bournemouth for an undisclosed fee. We just reckon it's a small fee, but they've taken over the deal that West Ham currently had. And then Connor Coventry, he went out to Rotherham United on a loan till the end of the season. But before he did that, he did sign a new contract with West Ham, keeping him at the club. Now, that leaves West Ham with just 5 senior players left to decide over their contracts before they expire on June the 30th. And the club have options to extend 3 of those deals. First up is Fabianski. He started every single Premier League game this season, and West Ham do have an option to extend his deal by a further 12 months. But for me, when it comes to Fabianski, you know what, he's given us a great career so far in his West Ham lifetime, but the transition needs to happen sooner rather than later with Areola. There's no point in spending the money we're spending on him. You know, French international, PSG former player, quality player, played in Premier League for Fulham, showed what he's capable of doing. He needs to be our regular keeper now, especially at the age he is at, and you will want to give him regular game time. The fact that Hugo Lloris has retired from international football gives a sniff at a chance of playing regular international football as well, so he needs to come in and go in between the sticks. But I think West Ham may offer an extension deal for Fabianski to be the backup keeper, and on top of that, you know, help him with the transition into being a long-term West Ham player. Now, West Ham do have an option to extend these 2-year extensions on deals for Lanzini and Vladimir Sufal. So when it comes to Lanzini, listen, we all love the geezer. We think he's a quality player. On his days, injury didn't help him out when he did get picked up an injury, but he came back and bounced back and done a job for West Ham. What do we do when it comes to Lanzini? He's kind of fallen out of favour when he was at one point last season and the season before. Bit of a Moyes favourite, but there's not really a lot of room for him in the squad. Will he favour a move back to Argentina into his homeland? But he does seem to have fallen in love with the UK as well. And when it comes to Vladimir Sufal, what do we do with him? There's no ifs or buts about it. He's performed a little bit better recently, but his legs are definitely not what they once were in a West Ham shirt. But we do have the option to trigger 2-year extensions on those 2 players. And then that leaves Angelo Ogbonna, who did get his contract extended until the end of this summer. He's bounced back really well from such a terrible injury at the age that he is at. I don't see West Ham extending the contract. I think we will be saying goodbye to Ogbonna at the end of the summer, and we will need to look at looking at a long-term replacement in that position as centre-half with Craig Dawson out the door, Ogbonna, you know, aging, Zuma injured, and relying heavily on Agard. We've gone from having 4 reliable centre-backs to literally 1 right now, and even his one was a topsy-turvy start to his West Ham career in Agard. So we need to really define that's the area we really need to concentrate on and build for the future. And of course, as I've mentioned, that Harrison Ashby is going to be another player that's going to be out of contract. So these are the players that, you know, are going to have a big transitioning effect for West Ham moving forward. So let me give you another brief rundown. Contracts that are expiring at the end of 2023 are, and I'll tell you the players that have options for extension. Lanzini, he has an optional 2-year extension. His current contract ends at the end of this summer in June. Vladimir Sufal, his contract ends in June, but he also has an optional 2-year extension. Ogbonna contract runs out in June. Lucas Fabianski runs out in June, but he has an option of a 1-year extension. Harrison Ashby runs out in June. He looks like he's going to go. But then you look into the next year, and there's a whole host of players' contracts that are due. Declan Rice, Tommy Suchek, Pablo Fornals, Mickey Antonio, Ben Johnson, Nathan Trott, Creswell, Masuaku, Coventry, Anang. It's only really a couple of years down the line when you look at Danny Ings, Bowen, Zuma, Benrahma, Kira, Emerson, Vlasic, Paqueta, Scamacca, Corney, Agard, Areola, Downs. But you need to really concentrate on the next crop of players that are heading out the door. The big transition is on its way for West Ham. We've had one this summer. We're about to hit another one next summer as well. So it's vital that we sign up the relevant players that we need, but we are identifying players that can come in and take over and do a job for West Ham. Short and sweet for you. There is your little bit of an update on the 5 players that are currently going to be out of contract at West Ham. A couple of weeks ago it was 8, or last week it was 8. Now it's 5. We've done a deal on 3. So what are we going to do with the last 5? Let me know. Lanzini, what would you do? Keep him, option of a 2-year extension, or would you let him go and try and generate a fee? Vladimir Sufal, what would you do? Try and generate a fee, or keep him, or let him go on a freebie in the summer? Ogbonna, can he come in some form of coaching role, or has he still got it in his legs to play on a bit further? Fabianski, will he help in the transition of Areola? Will Areola still be a West Ham goalkeeper? We need to keep that one. And what is going to happen with the Harrison Ashby saga? A lot to consider. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Stay safe. And of course, come on, you Iron.